Hi, I'm Todd Gordon, professor at Kansas City, Kansas Community College, and I am presenting a video Zoom roundtable at the HAPS virtual conference on October 18th. And so I've got this short 20-minute kind of summary video to summarize my PowerPoint that I'll be sending along as an ancillary material in advance of that conference. It's what I'd tell my first year teaching self, or a few things that I've learned about teaching in my career. And this comes from a presentation I gave in person at the annual HAPS meeting in Pittsburgh in May. So I was invited to do this, and so I'm happy to do this. I apologize for the low tech of this. This is as high tech as I'm going to get. But I'm just going to spend a few minutes going through the PowerPoints briefly to try to explain a few of the high points. I would like for you to get at least something out of this. If nothing else, I'd like for you to have a lot of what you already know reinforced. I know I have experience as teachers or as a teacher, and you may not. And so hopefully you'll learn something from me. Or in the roundtable, we can bounce ideas off of each other and get good ideas, what works, what doesn't work, things like that. The first thing I would tell myself as a new instructor is to have some confidence. You can do this. The people who hired you know that you can do this. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed right at the start. There's going to be a lot coming at you. It'll be academic. It'll be from outside of class. It'll be, whatever. But you just have to have a positive attitude. You can do this. The people who hire you know that you can do this also. Okay. See, low tech. You were hired to teach. If you weren't hired to teach, ignore this slide. But you were hired to teach, and that should overall be your priority. Teaching first, then outside class activities like committees and that sort of thing after that. Now, if teaching is your priority, and I think that it should be, then I think that your students should be your priority. And one thing I would like for you to remember is, 1, you are the subject expert. 2, treat your students not as being inferior to you. Don't act like you're more important than the students. Don't act like you know more than the students, even though you do. Don't show up your students. I think that's really important. Don't embarrass your students. Talk to them. Don't talk at them. I think it's a really important thing to know. Always be learning. Don't become a stale instructor. Be willing to update your courses frequently. I try to update my courses about every 2 years. I try to keep current with my courses. I try to keep current also with current events. That's easier in something like my micro class, which is like one long current event after another. But even in anatomy and physiology, there are current events going on. There's new things being learned. But not only should you keep up in your class, keep up with news and pop culture. I'm not as good at pop culture as I was, but I still try. Don't be afraid to change course materials. Don't be afraid to go to a new textbook. Don't be afraid to go to, new support materials or whatever. Don't be afraid to go to new testing or whatever. Be flexible. That's something that will come up again later in this PowerPoint. Most of your learning will be done on your own. I can count probably on one hand the number of things that I've learned in in-services, which we have twice a year. We have them every semester at our school. But you'll learn a lot from reading. You'll learn a lot from lecturing or teaching. And if you go to conferences and you go to meetings, you'll learn a lot there. I'm a big proponent of going to meetings and conferences. That'll probably show up a lot later. Even though you're in this or you're looking at this video, you're probably aware that you'll get a lot of information from conferences and meetings. Sorry, changing the slides. Be flexible. Don't be afraid to try new things. Don't be afraid to change grading styles or grading schemes. Don't be afraid to change teaching styles. Don't be afraid to change your tests. Don't be afraid to flip the course if you want to try that. And even if it's unsuccessful, okay, so it was unsuccessful. You tried it. You'll find out over a period of time, and it may take a few years, you'll find out what works. But at the beginning of your career is a great time to figure out or to try different things and see what works, see what doesn't work. Eventually, you will develop a unique teaching style. It may take 3 to 5 years, and that's fine. You may not be it in the long haul like I am. This is my 32nd year of teaching, but 3 to 5 years is nothing. And, if it takes you that time to get good or to get better, you'll be better for it. I also know that I would be embarrassed probably to go back to some of my early classes and see how good I was as a teacher or how not good I was as a teacher. So I guess I'm glad that I don't have to do that. Another thing that is on this slide is, I think, important. Not all of your classes are the same. What works in my micro class may not work in my anatomy class. Classes will be different from semester to semester. I have different students. And I'll say probably more than I need to about assessment later on in this PowerPoint. But assessment's the same way. You cannot assess your anatomy course the same way you can assess your micro course, just like you cannot assess your science courses the way you can music courses. Different courses need different types of assessments. I know that. I think the headline on this slide is really important. I think you need to respect your students. I think you should treat them as people. That's probably the main thing. Be interested in what they're doing. And I'm going to zoom in a little bit on a couple of these. Do not talk down to your students. Most students are in your class to learn. That's important. Don't talk down to your students. Try to get to know your students. Treat your students fairly, not necessarily equally. Just as not all of your courses are the same, not all of your students are the same. You may, like I do, I have athletes in my course, they're going to be gone quite a bit. And so I have to deal with something like that. Or I may have people who are gone for funerals, or I have people who work and we have to deal with that. But treat them fairly. Treat them as though you would like to be treated. And I know that goes back to the golden rule, but it's like true, okay? If they ask questions, answer. If they send email, answer. Communicate. That's one of the big things. Communicate with your students. I've heard so many complaints about Well, there is just no communication between the student and the instructor, and that just shouldn't happen. Most of your students will be good. Most of them will take your class seriously. They won't cause you any problems. You shouldn't make heroic efforts to save those who probably can't be saved. There are some students that you won't be able to save. You should try, but if there's a student who is, and I say this, if there's a student who's beyond saving, your administration should back you on this. If you've made an effort to reach the students and they can't be reached, your administration should help you on that. It's okay if you don't want to go into administration. But, I mean, I didn't. I spent 30-some years in teaching now, and that's fine. I'm good with that. I did have a couple of opportunities and didn't take them. You should have, if your administrator asks you to do something, though, that you don't necessarily want to do, you should have the right to say no to that. And that leads to what you do outside the classroom. I think in the beginning, outside in the classroom, this is your beginning few years, we ask at our institution that you participate on committees. I don't think that you should participate in more than one at a time. Don't be overwhelmed. Now, if you're a person who likes grants or likes to do research, I think it's acceptable to replace a committee with that. And I would say either do research or do a grant or do a committee, but don't do too much. I think it's important that you don't do too much. I will say that the one thing that you need to do and that you have to do, and we've learned this at our institution, you have to do assessment. The reason to do assessment is to improve teaching and learning. It's not for grading. It's not an evaluative thing. And you should be evaluating your courses. My students should learn 5 to 7 things out of every course that I teach. I don't tell them what they are, but I do assess them, and I do try to see, or I do try to make sure that they're learning that. In addition to doing classroom assessment, you need to learn about the framework of your college level assessment plan and how you fit into that, or how your program fits into that, or whatever. I'll just say that it's a vital part of any institution to be assessing not just courses or classroom, but like programs and general ed and all of that stuff. Don't be a cave dweller. Don't be against virtually everything. You need to participate this, and you need to be active in this. Also, if your students are doing things, or if you want to get involved in other campus activities, you should. If you have a biology club or some sort of club that you want to get involved in, get involved in it. If you have athletes in class and you want to go to their games, go. One thing that I will tell you that I think that you need to do, I think that you should go to your graduation ceremonies on campus. We almost require that, and I think that's a good thing. Okay. You're here. You're watching this video, and hopefully you're not asleep yet. But I am a big proponent on travel. I'm a big proponent of professional associations, and you're watching this video, and you're watching this video for HAPS, so you're willing to be involved in professional associations. And I know there's trouble with like cost and time and that sort of thing. You don't have to travel every year, but I think travel is worthwhile to gain knowledge, to gain networking, to gain friends. I've gained lifelong friends from HAPS, and I'm glad about that. The last thing that I'd like to say in this brief run through of the PowerPoint, keep a positive attitude. And that's a positive attitude both mentally and physically. I like to think I'm in okay shape now that I'm in my 60s. And I still think I've got a few years left. But just as much as my physical health, my mental health is really important. And if you're struggling with your mental health, keep a positive attitude. But remember that there are resources that you should use for mental health. If you need them and they're available, use them. So I think that's all I need to say in the brief, quick summary of the PowerPoint. I'll be putting this PowerPoint as an ancillary material along with this video for the virtual conference. I look forward to seeing you at the round table if you'd like to come, and we can bounce around ideas, or I can describe what works, what doesn't, that sort of thing, or try to impart all of my knowledge that I've learned. If you'd like to get a hold of me before then, I'm zooming in on my email address, and it's in the PowerPoint, obviously. So throw me a line, and then hopefully I'll see you on October 18th. I think it's at 1 o'clock Central, but sometime on the 18th. And that'll be it for now. Take care. We'll see you then. Bye-bye.